Welcome to this week's edition of Dugout Dash in the Clubhouse with EMD Baseball. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host who has a magnificent beard, Keith Glasser. Keith, how we doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. A little inside joke.
You have a great beard too.
I appreciate that. that. So today's short. I think this is a good topic, and I'm glad that you brought it up as an idea, something to talk about. But we'll short for the title. We'll call it the Circle of Trust. But what we're going to get into is college coaches and how they lean on people that have earned their trust from an evaluation standpoint, from a baseball standpoint, and how that factors in to evaluation, how that factors into identification of players. We're going to hit that topic real quick. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Keith. Get us started on this one.
Sure. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I'd seen a couple of things on Twitter maybe that kind of alluded to this, that, college coaches maybe don't respond or get back to or listen to, some coaches out there. I think it's a fair assessment, a fair gripe, I would say, when it comes to that type of stuff, because it is true. Like, there are a lot of coaches out there that aren't necessarily going to take every single phone call that comes their way on potential players. And there's multiple reasons to that. One is, just a sheer time standpoint. There's a lot that goes on a daily basis in a program where you might not be able to take a ton of phone calls while answering emails and such. But the other is, and this is the hard part, I think, for people to be able to quantify what level of knowledge the person that is calling about a player who could potentially play in your program, that they have of your program, the level of play, and what it might take to play at that level. And I think sometimes it's hard for coaches to really take a full, honest assessment from somebody that they don't know. And that's also a fair thing to say about college coaches, right? Because when you do this as a career and you have people who do this like us, and you have people who coach at other schools, and we've heard other coaches talk about this on here, that, they'll watch guys for other guys, and they'll let them know what they think about certain things. And it's, when you've been at this level and you've seen the amount of games and you've watched as much baseball as we have, there comes with it a certain level of evaluation where you can see guys fitting in at certain levels where, the one-off kind of coach, and I don't mean to ruffle any feathers or make people mad. It's just the reality that, like, they don't know what you know. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to listen or take what you have to say as truth. But I think there's a lot more, they'll lean a lot more into the character side of things and lean more into what type of kid he is and how hard he works and those types of things versus the straight up, I think he can play at your school, because I think that there's times where, it's a hard thing to say, I think, to coaches, because you don't necessarily know, what that level is or what that looks like. If you've never seen them play, like, it's hard for you to call somebody and tell them, like, he can definitely play for you. Like, you've never seen me play. How do you know that? You don't know what type of coach I am. How do you know that? So there's always that side of the coin with these types of conversations. And I think that, it's an easier route to kind of send an email, introduce yourself. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is the kid I have. These are his numbers, super hardworking kid, great family, blah, blah, whatever, to talk the kid up. And then, see if you can set up a phone call that way, because then at least it breaks the ice and kind of lets them know, like, okay, this is where this kid might fit into my program. I'm going to give this guy a call, versus the cold calling to try to get people on the phone to talk. I just think is a little bit more difficult to do nowadays.
Yes, absolutely. And you hit on a bunch of stuff there that I think that's really important, right? And it kind of weaves into a bunch of topics that we've talked about in the past, but, like, it's tough to tell somebody that they're good enough if you have no idea what it takes to play in that program. And I think that's something that, like, if you're a high school coach or you're a travel coach listening to this, understand that there's a big difference between working for your kids and overselling your kids. And if you get in the business of overselling kids, you're going to lose the trust of coaches, and they're just going to stop paying attention to what you say. Because you've had it happen. I know I've had it happen where you get a report on a kid and you get told it's easier for pitchers because you can quantify it with velocity and how guys exaggerate. But, you get somebody who tells you, hey, this kid's 86 to 88. He's got 78 to 80 mile an hour breaking ball. Kid's going to be worth your time. That was the kind of kid that we honed in on when we were at William and Mary. Like, we valued kids who could spin it. And, we knew we weren't going to get the kid who was 90 to 93 presently. Like, we needed a kid with some projection, some guy who's going to have a chance to develop. So that was the kind of guy that we would go after. And then you drive 3.5 hours to the middle of nowhere, Virginia, and you get there and the top bullet the kid's got is 82. Like, he didn't have an off day. He's just not as good as you said he was. So now I'm driving back in my car after watching 2 innings because I'm not sitting there for 6 innings to watch him throw 78 in the seventh. Well, you've completely lost my trust. So now every time you call me on a kid until proven otherwise, I don't believe what you're saying. And from a coach's perspective, that's how guys view it. And you're always going to lean on guys that you trust. You're always going to value the opinions of people that in the past have done well by you. And whether that's someone like us, I know that's what we pride ourselves on. Quick plug on EMD baseball, obviously, but that's something that we pride ourselves on, is that if we pick up the phone to call a coach, we're not doing it lightly. So when we actually pick up the phone and we call a coach, they know that kid is somewhere in the vicinity of where he needs to be for me to pay attention to that kid from a talent perspective. And that would be the big thing if I was giving anybody any tips, high school guys, travel guys, is you need to be really confident and you need to have a really good understanding of where kids fit and not just throw it out to anybody and everybody. The other thing is you got to know what that kid wants. Right. There's a big difference between a kid being able to play in a program and in a program being a fit for the kid. I know I'm losing the topic a touch, but it all circles back to college coaches lean on guys that they know have given them good information in the past. And if you're one of those high school guys or travel guys, be cognizant of that fact, because if you start burning bridges because you oversell your guys, you will not find yourself in that circle of trust, Greg.
No, you won't. You won't. And I think the other thing too that's important that we would be remiss not to mention is we're not, I'm not trying to, hammer anybody or make people think as though like coaches don't value what coaches think about the kid. Again, I think some of it stems from the fact that from a pure talent evaluation standpoint, you're going to lean on the guys that have experience that can help you out with those things. But the other is like, and I think this is where a lot of people get lost in this as well, is that when it comes to the reaching out to college coaches and trying to help kids, like it's awesome, but you need to also understand that this is a giant country. And there's a lot of guys that are being recruited, so there's like, yes, you can call and say he's 82 to 84 and blah, 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 whatever. But like, there's a lot of dudes who are 82 to 84. Like, what is it that's going to separate? What can you give me about this kid that's going to separate him from everyone else that is 82 to 84 to put him on my radar? And I think sometimes in the metrics and data era, we get caught up in all of those numbers and we throw those out there and just think that like, okay, well, the numbers play, so he should be able to, he can fit into that program. And again, I think it goes back to making sure you understand what that program is, what it has, what actually can fit in there, and how you might be able to help that coach put him on that kid to potentially recruit him. And to your point about, being out of this circle of trust, like, coaches have lives outside of baseball. contrary to popular belief and what some people do. So there's that's hours of your life you're never going to get back, having to go watch somebody who wasn't necessarily what was advertised. And it's a tough, that's why people get upset about it. And that's why sometimes it feels as though there's a lot of hurdles you have to clear in order to get to that, coaching staff or coach or whatever. And I think sometimes it's best to just, reach out with an email and say, hey, this is who I am. This is the kid I have. These are the numbers. I just want to jump on the phone and give you a quick rundown of where I see the kid and how good of a kid he is and whatever else it is that you want to add into that in order to be able to kind of help that kid along and get him in front of the staff that he wants to play for and the program he wants to be in.
Well said. Anything else you want to add for this particular topic, Coach?
Yeah, just don't take it personal, what we say. It's not personal. It's just we're trying to spread knowledge and information here. It's not a personal attack on anybody. It's just we're trying to get people to understand that there's nuance to these types of things that go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way to stay in the circle of trust is to don't be hyperbolic about your players and shoot coaches straight. They'll appreciate that because they don't want to waste their time, and I can promise you they don't want to waste yours either. And if you give them a good eval, if you give them an honest eval, you got a much better chance of establishing a relationship there, and those guys they'll pay attention, they'll answer that email, they'll answer that text message, they'll pick up that phone in the future. So stay in the circle of trust by being honest, or at least transparent, candid, however you want to describe it.
Find a thesaurus.
as I type it into Grammarly to see if I can find another word to use.
That's right.
All right. Well, wonderful. As usual, another good sesh, Coach. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, por favor, like button. And you want to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, you can find us at EMD Baseball. And if you want to find out more about what we do to help families and players find the best fits for them in their search for college baseball, go to emdbaseball.com. New website. It's updated. It's awesome. Give it a look. Until next week. Thanks, everybody.